China is the place because of the talent, because of the infrastructure. That is what makes China the market leader in the world in this space. Don't be naive. Like me, be aware of the international surroundings. Explore other countries. Choose the wrong country or partner for manufacturing your product, and you're not building a business. You're creating a house of cards that will eventually topple. So, what does the future look like? Which country has the infrastructure and talent necessary for manufacturing the best quality products at a reasonable price? Think long term so that your business is still thriving 10 years from now. The future, survival, and potential growth of your company is entirely dependent on this decision. There's been a lot in the news lately about companies moving their offshore manufacturing out of China to Vietnam and the other Southeast Dragon countries. So what actually happened to these companies? Is Vietnam or Indonesia a better choice now? And what does it really take to move your manufacturing from China to another country? What do you lose and what do you gain in that process? Today we're going to go over that, hopefully to help you make a decision on where you should be manufacturing your product moving forward. Why do countries move out of China? The answer is pretty straightforward and simple. It's getting more expensive to make stuff here. Cost of labor is going up. Real estate prices are going up, which means rent and space for your supply chains going up. Warehousing is going up. Let's put aside the political reasons for a second, but economically, the reason for you as a business owner to move your business outside of China is because of price, right? In reality, because quality is still here. People are moving to Vietnam, Bangladesh, Indonesia, because the prices are cheaper. What I hope to help you uncover is why this is hard, what companies should potentially be doing this and looking at other options, and who shouldn't. The biggest companies in the world are doing that. Apple has moved away some of their components from China. Why? Well, they're a multi-trillion-dollar company that has the budget that most of us can't afford. They can afford to rebuild infrastructure in different countries and take all of that under their wing. The people and companies that manufacture for Apple have to listen to Apple's every command, right? It's a completely one-sided arrangement for understandable reasons, right? The quantity that they're pushing is massive. So they obviously have tons of leverage. Now, how does that compare to your average Joe business owner? It's not comparable, right? Forget apples to oranges. This is apples and elephantitis pineapples, right? Like it's not even close to being able to compare. Your ability to move your entire supply chain away from the strongest manufacturing nation in the world is next to impossible. There's outliers. There are people who are willing to pack their bags and move to Vietnam and spend 10 hours in factories that don't have air conditioning, because that's what it would take. That's how I built my business here in China. And there are people that are willing to do that. But for most people, that's just out of the question, right? It's out of the scope of possibilities that you have. So the first biggest issue is the difficulties that arise in trying to move your supply chain and hook into an infrastructure that's not as developed. That comes with a cost and time variable that most people aren't willing to part with. Second, and arguably the most important, I'll cut it off after this because I think this is the main reason why it is much more difficult than you think it is to move your product elsewhere. And that's the quality. China has been a manufacturing powerhouse for decades. With that time at the top, they have built factory systems and infrastructures that are not comparable to anywhere else in the world. Supply chain, logistics, right? Dealing with other factories within the supply chain, right? It's all domestic. There's nothing that's getting farmed out internationally for the most part. With that comes talent, more and more engineers. And at the end of the day, the price to manufacture a product in China compared to manufacturing it in Canada or the US or UK, Australia, whatever, it's still a fraction of the overall price. Here's the hot take. While some companies will be able to reinvent their infrastructure of their supply chain, most people will not. And even if they can, the quality to price ratio that they will save by moving out of China won't be worth it. Now, there's obviously industries that I think go against what I'm saying. Morpho, our goal is to build the Rolexes and Rolls Royces of any given niche or industry, to help companies create products that are scalable, that you can grow real businesses with. We've had a lot of trial and error with the infrastructure in China and audited thousands of factories to be able to have the supply chain that we have. So for cheaper products, right, if you're trying to make a pair of socks or a set of chopsticks or cheaper products that do not require that sort of infrastructure or engineering, by all means, right, go to Vietnam, go to Indonesia, go to Bangladesh, right? Those countries are willing and capable of making products like that. For entrepreneurs and businesses that are making high-tech, top-of-the-line, complex, high-quality products, 10 more years. That's it. That's the big reveal. China is the safest country to build out your supply chain for your business so that in 10 years' time, you're stable and growing. If you're building a brand or a product with a USP that's interesting, that's complex, and are striving for quality, China is the only place to do that. Despite all of the shock news that the media tries to sell you, that China's anything but safe, the reality is completely the opposite. China is not only safe, in my opinion, it is the only place that you should feel comfortable investing in the infrastructure to build out your company's future. I'm not naive, right? This has happened throughout history. With England and the Industrial Revolution, stuff moved on. We went to America. America and their manufacturing capabilities, stuff moved on. To say that manufacturing is going to come back to the US just isn't that reasonable. Why? Because the country has matured, has grown, and there are less people willing to work for the types of money, the salaries that make manufacturing sustainable. And I don't think that's a problem. I think that that's how economies mature. That's how they develop. There is no doubt in my mind that that will eventually happen in China. But for the time being, for the next decade, 5 years minimum, I guess 10, China is the place because of the talent, because of the infrastructure. That is what makes China the market leader in the world in this space. Over the next 5 to 10 years, the prices will go up. So what does that mean? It means that only high quality products will continue to make sense. And that will be more and more true each year that passes. If you're building a high quality product, set up in China, learn the ropes, build out your infrastructure. Don't be naive. Like me, be aware of the international surroundings. Explore other countries. If you have a company that's growing, think about having multiple countries involved in your supply chain. Parachutes have an extra parachute for a reason. Be prepared. Set up in China, but be prepared. Now look, let's wrap this up. I'm obviously biased, right? My company's HQ is in Guangzhou, China. However, we are not limited to China. Morpho has an office in India. We've explored setting up offices in Indonesia and Vietnam. We have suppliers in most of the Southeast Asian countries. But the reality is that for a company like ours, trying to build the highest quality, most premium products in the world, this is more a precaution than a necessity. We're based in China, sure. But that's for good reason. The infrastructure is not about to disappear overnight. Despite all the headlines, manufacturing's leaving in China. I can promise you that it's not. The demand for building premium products is still as high as ever. People are still going to be buying products. And the supply, as for the last few decades, is still here in China. This is where you find the best quality and cost saving ratio in the entire world. That's just facts. If you disagree, sound off in the comments below. Peace.